My wife disappeared for days, leaving me desperate and panicked. Then I found out her friends had been secretly filming my breakdown and posting it online for thousands to laugh at. I'm 34 years old, and my wife is 32. We've been married for 6 years now. I have a full-time job, while my wife decided to be a stay-at-home wife since our marriage. Then, out of nowhere last Tuesday, I woke up and she was just gone. No note, no message, nothing. Her car and a suitcase were missing too. Initially, I thought maybe she'd gone to see her mom and would contact me later. But as the day wore on, I became really worried. By Wednesday, with no word from her, I started reaching out to her mom, sister, friends, and even former colleagues, but nobody had heard from her. By Thursday, I was in a full-blown panic, calling hospitals to check if she'd been admitted anywhere. Come Friday morning, I was distraught enough to file a missing person report. The police, however, weren't very supportive. They pointed out that since she left voluntarily with her belongings, she likely just chose to leave. They emphasized that adults have the right to disappear as long as there's no indication of foul play. I tried to explain that this behavior was so unlike her, it had me genuinely worried something was wrong. By Saturday afternoon, in desperation, I was driving around looking for her car when I finally found it parked at her friend Claudia's house. I knocked on Claudia's door, and she looked incredibly awkward. When I asked if my wife was there, she hesitated. Then there was my wife standing right there. I was overwhelmed with relief to see her safe and sound. Trying to understand what was happening, I asked why she hadn't gotten in touch, if everything was okay. To my surprise, she looked upset with me, which was baffling considering how I'd been on tenterhooks for 4 days. She insisted, "Ted, we needed to talk," and came back home with me. It turns out she did all of this intentionally. Her goal was to give me a taste of what life would feel like without her around, to make me value all the work she does at home. I was shocked. I asked her why she hadn't just spoken to me if she felt undervalued. She said she had tried to communicate with me, but felt unheard, believing this was the only way to capture my attention. She wanted me to realize how much she contributes and how I might be taking her efforts for granted. The truth is, I do appreciate her work around the house. While she takes care of most of the domestic chores, I'm out there working over 50 hours a week to provide for both of us. I believed we had an understanding. After getting home, I pitch in with dishes or laundry when she asks. I've never grumbled about her not having a job or demeaned her for it. I'm trying to grasp her viewpoint, but making me believe she was harmed or kidnapped just to make a point about chores seems really intense. I feel embarrassed about the missing person report. Now I'll have to contact them to explain everything's fine. I lost 3 days of work and hardly slept. She says if I had put as much effort into our home as I did into worrying about her disappearance, we wouldn't be in this spot. But I don't know what else she wants from me. I'm not messy. I handle my own messes, I do the yard work, and I take care of home repairs. Am I missing something? Is this normal behavior? I love her, but I'm struggling to move past the fact she let me endure such distress for days just to make a point about housework. One comment suggested that this constitutes emotional abuse. They argued that making someone believe you're dead to prove a point is manipulative and cruel. The fact that she planned this and watched me suffer indicates, they said, a worrying lack of empathy. They advised seriously reconsidering the relationship. Another user commented, suggesting my wife might have been influenced by some negative people, citing that her actions aren't something most people would come up with independently. They advised finding out who's been influencing her and what other ideas they've planted. In response, I mentioned that my wife has been spending more time with her friend Claudia and her circle, who've all experienced rocky relationships recently. My wife started socializing with them more about 6 months ago. At first, I was happy she was engaging with friends, but I've noticed she's more critical of me. Little things, like how I load the dishwasher or fold laundry, have become points of contention. When I confronted her about the disappearing stunt being someone else's idea, she got defensive, though her words seemed more like regurgitated advice rather than her feelings. It's frustrating because, while I can't outright ask her to stop being friends with these women, their influence seems problematic. I'm unsure how to address this without appearing controlling. Another person asked what exactly my wife does around the house. I broke it down as fairly as I could. She manages most daily cleaning, does most of the laundry, handles grocery shopping, meal planning, and typically cooks dinner. She also keeps track of our social schedules and remembers important dates. I take on all outdoor chores, home repairs, car maintenance, and manage our finances. I also clean up the kitchen after dinner and manage trash and recycling. During deep cleaning, I help with the heavy tasks and work on specific weekend projects like organizing the garage. I've never refused a request for help with chores. Our house isn't large, and it's just the two of us. Yes, she manages more of the daily upkeep, but I'm clocking in over 50 hours weekly. Even when exhausted, I assist with cleanup and whatever else I'm asked to do. I thought this was a fair division. Maybe I'm wrong. Perhaps she does feel she's handling too much. But disappearing for 4 days instead of talking it out, that's the part that leaves me questioning what's reasonable. I'm totally baffled by all this. If she had just come to me and said, "Hey, I need you to help out more around the house," I would have definitely listened. We could have figured out a way to split chores or something. But now, I'm starting to wonder if this whole thing wasn't really about the housework. Maybe it was just an excuse. Update. A big thanks to everyone who commented. I honestly didn't expect this to blow up, but your thoughts really opened my eyes to how serious this situation was. After my initial post, I knew I needed to talk to my wife face-to-face about what happened. I waited a few days until we both had a chance to calm down. Then I sat her down and told her how her disappearing act made me feel. To my surprise, she was more open to the conversation than I thought she'd be. She apologized, admitting she hadn't considered things from my perspective. That's when I straight up asked if her friends had put her up to this. At first, she dodged the question, but eventually, she admitted that Claudia was behind it, with some encouragement from Janice and Rumi. They called it a power move to make me realize how much I rely on her. Turns out they'd been building up to this for a while. They convinced her that I was using her like some unpaid servant. They even suggested that I was cheating on her while she was stuck at home doing laundry. The cheating accusation really hit me because it's totally untrue. When I asked if she believed it, she said no, but her friends had made her doubt me enough to start questioning. They insisted that all men cheat, especially when their wives stay home and aren't independent. They spent weeks planning this whole thing. Claudia offered her a place to stay. Janice coached her on packing to make it look like she left on her own, and Rumi told her to turn off her phone so I couldn't track her. They even had some group chat about it, mapping everything out and guessing how I'd react. The worst part was when she admitted they were all excited to see how I'd respond, like it was some sort of entertainment for them. They wanted to see if I'd brush it off, proving I didn't care, or freak out, showing I couldn't function without her. Either way, they'd have some ammo against me. I asked how she felt being used as a pawn in their scheme, and that seemed to click for her. She went quiet and said she hadn't thought of it that way. They made it seem they had her best interests in mind. Here's where it goes downhill. When I asked if she was going to cut them off, she hesitated. She said they're her friends, and she couldn't just ditch them. She had talked to them about how things went too far, but cutting them out completely wasn't on the table. I told her that's a problem. These women convinced her to put me through mental torture for 4 days as some kind of test. They're toxic and clearly don't want our marriage to work. If she's not willing to distance herself from people trying to destroy our relationship, we've got a bigger problem. She got defensive, saying I was trying to control her friendships. She insisted that just because their advice was bad, this once doesn't make them bad people. They were simply looking out for her because they've all been through divorces and didn't want her to end up in a similar spot. I pointed out that maybe 3 divorced women aren't the best people for marriage advice, and that really ticked her off. She said I was being judgmental, and that just because their marriages failed didn't invalidate their opinions. We just went round and round on this. She kept saying she could still be friends with them without taking their bad advice. But I don't see how that's possible. These women don't like me and want her to leave. They won't stop trying to turn her against me just because this plan failed. The final straw was when she said I was overreacting and should just move on because she was back home and had apologized. She said if I held a grudge, it'd only prove her friends were right about me being controlling. That's when I realized she still doesn't get why what she did was so wrong. She's sorry I was hurt, but she's not sorry for the act itself. In her mind, my reaction is the issue, not her actions. So, I packed a bag and went to stay at my brother's place. I told her I needed some space to think, and that unless she cut ties with the people who made her do this, I couldn't trust her judgment. She cried and begged me to stay, but I left anyway. It's been 3 days now. She's been texting non-stop, going back and forth between apologizing and accusing me of leaving our marriage over a single mistake. Her friends are convincing her this proves they were right about me not truly loving her. My brother and his wife have been really supportive. They're letting me stay as long as I need and have been great to talk to. My sister-in-law especially pointed out that if her friends ever convinced her to pull something like this on my brother, she'd drop them instantly, because real friends don't push you to hurt those you love. I don't know what's next. I love my wife, but I'm starting to think love isn't enough if she keeps letting others manipulate her into hurting me. I never imagined I'd be considering divorce, but that's where we're at. Comment 1. Your wife is showing you who she really is. She teamed up with her friends to mentally abuse you, and when push comes to shove, she's more worried about keeping those friendships than fixing your marriage. The fact that she's using their validation to justify her actions shows she's unlikely to change. OP reply, this is what's keeping me up at night. The woman I married wouldn't have done something like this, but maybe I didn't know her as well as I thought. What's really bothering me is how easily she was influenced by these women. We've been together for 8 years, married for 6. In all that time, I thought we'd built trust and communication, but it took her new friends just a few months to make me out to be the bad guy. The group chat is really disturbing, knowing they were all plotting to mess with my head and talking about my reactions like some kind of experiment. And my wife was in on it. She helped plan something meant to hurt me deeply. When she tells me her friends are saying my leaving proves them right, it shows she's more invested in their approval than in our marriage. She's not looking at their advice critically. She's just accepting whatever they say as truth. I keep thinking about what my sister-in-law said. Real friends don't push you to hurt your loved ones. These women don't want my wife to be happy in our marriage. They want her to end up as miserable and divorced as they are. The fact that she can't see that or doesn't want to see it speaks volumes about where her priorities are. Comment 2. Have you thought about marriage counseling? Your wife needs to understand the impact of her actions, and it seems like you both have some underlying issues that could be worked through with professional help. It seems like these toxic friends have been bombarding her with overly intense affection, a tactic often referred to as love bombing, and she might really benefit from some professional guidance to help her see through their manipulation. Certain people are just more prone to falling under such influence, especially if they're feeling alone or dealing with insecurities. OP mentioned, I actually suggested counseling in one of our chats, and her reaction said a lot. She was opposed to therapy, claiming that the therapist would side with me since I'd be footing the bill. I tried to explain that therapy doesn't work that way, but she insisted that her friends had told her couples counselors are biased towards saving marriages, even when separating would be more appropriate. This is exactly the kind of mindset I'm worried about. These women seem to have an explanation for everything, convincing her that any opinion that doesn't match theirs can't be trusted. They've formed this closed-off echo chamber where only their views are valid. I understand why she might be more vulnerable to this kind of manipulation. She has always aimed to please people and earn their approval. After she stopped working, a lot of her social ties faded away, likely leaving her feeling quite lonely. That's when these women stepped in, making her feel valued and like she was part of some close-knit group. The idea that she's being love-bombed is right on target. They shower her with attention and affirm her, but only when she's complaining about me or our marriage. If she tries to say anything positive about our relationship, they either change the subject or twist it into something negative. I'm open to the idea of counseling, but I don't think she'd engage in good faith right now. She'd likely go into it with the preconceived notion that the therapist is biased, using that to dismiss anything that challenges her friends' stories. For counseling to be effective, both partners need to be willing to consider they might be in the wrong on some issues. At the moment, she's convinced that I'm the problem, and her friends are the solution. Until that perspective changes, I don't see how therapy would make a difference. Update 2. Just when I thought the situation couldn't possibly get any worse, it did. My sister-in-law approached me yesterday with something she discovered online. She was reluctant to show it to me, but said it was important for me to see. She had been digging around on social media after I told her about my wife's friends, trying to get a clearer picture of who these women were. That's when she stumbled upon Claudia's TikTok account. A video had been posted 5 days ago, right after I left to stay at my brother's house. It captured what looked like my living room, with me having a complete meltdown on a Friday morning before I filed the missing person report. I was on the phone with the police, in tears, desperately describing my wife and pleading with them to help me find her. The camera caught me at my lowest point. The video had over 40,000 views and hundreds of comments mocking me, calling me pathetic, saying I deserved it, and joking about how I'd probably be lost without someone to cook and clean for me. Some comments were even more disturbing, with women saying they wanted to try this with their own spans, asking for tips on pulling it off. The worst part was the realization that there were multiple cameras. Claudia had posted a follow-up video showing various angles of the same breakdown, along with footage of me frantically searching the house and calling hospitals. They had turned my genuine fear into entertainment for strangers on the internet. I was trembling when my sister-in-law showed me. The invasion of privacy was terrible enough, but knowing that these women had gleefully recorded my worst moments while my wife hid out at Claudia's house is a feeling I can't even begin to describe. My sister-in-law helped me screenshot everything before reporting the videos. The cameras were likely still in my house, small wireless ones hidden in picture frames and decorative objects. They had been recording me for who knows how long. I drove back to the house to confront my wife. When I showed her the screenshots and the hidden cameras, she turned pale. She kept repeating, "I didn't know." She claimed she had no idea they were filming me and certainly didn't know they had posted anything online. I wanted to believe her, but the cameras had been there for weeks. There's no way she couldn't have noticed them being set up. When I pressed her further, she admitted to knowing about some cameras, but thought they were just for security. She said Claudia assured her they were worried about me becoming violent once I found out about the plan. That made my blood boil. Not only had they filmed my breakdown, but they had also painted me as a potential threat to justify their surveillance. They were covering all their bases, ensuring they had evidence of my reaction no matter how I responded. My wife broke down when she realized the full extent of what her friends had done. She said she felt sick and betrayed. She called Claudia right away, yelling at her about the videos. From what I could hear, Claudia was laughing and telling her to chill out, claiming it was just for fun. That's when my wife finally lost it. She told Claudia she was sick and twisted and never wanted to see her again. She hung up and immediately blocked all three women on everything. But the damage was already done. Those videos were still out there being shared and commented on by thousands of strangers. Even though they were taken down after being reported, people had already downloaded and reposted them. My humiliation was permanent. We talked for hours that night. My wife was horrified by what she had unknowingly been a part of, continually apologizing and expressing how manipulated and used she felt. She realized her friends hadn't been trying to help her. They had been exploiting our marriage for social media drama content. She begged me to come home and try to salvage our relationship. She promised she was done with those toxic friends and wanted to rebuild our trust. She offered to go to marriage counseling, individual therapy, whatever it would take. I told her I needed time to process everything. The presence of camera footage meant our privacy had been violated for weeks or even months. She also moved out and has been staying at her mom's house for emotional support, giving me the space I need to think. Her mom called me yesterday to apologize on her daughter's behalf and said she was shocked when she heard what happened. Apparently, my wife has been crying non-stop and genuinely seems to understand the gravity of her mistake. A part of me wants to believe this wake-up call will lead to something positive. She did cut ties with the toxic friends once she understood how far they'd gone. She does seem genuinely remorseful now that she sees how much their manipulation affected her. But another part of me can't overlook what happened. Those videos will likely haunt me forever. My most vulnerable moment is now entertainment for strangers who find my pain amusing. And this occurred because my wife trusted people who disliked me more than she trusted her own husband. I love her, but I'm not sure if love is enough to overcome this level of betrayal. Even if she was manipulated, she still chose to be involved. She still allowed them to install cameras in our home. She still disappeared for 4 days while they filmed my breakdown. My brother thinks I should walk away and never look back. My sister-in-law believes people can change if they genuinely want to. Honestly, I'm at a loss for what to think right now. Some say the presence of those cameras indicates this was planned in advance and likely went on long before the disappearing act. They were probably building a case against me for weeks or months, potentially preparing to use the footage in divorce proceedings or for more social media content. My wife must have known this level of violation isn't something one accidentally becomes part of. So, I've been thinking a lot, and yeah, you're spot on about the whole premeditated thing. It's seriously been bothering me ever since I found those hidden cameras. We're not just talking about a couple of gadgets sneakily tucked away before she took off. Nope, these were expertly installed throughout the house, cleverly disguised as everyday items and strategically placed to capture all the right angles. We're talking multiple visits to get this all set up. Definitely not something done on a whim. Someone commented that my wife's attempt to cut ties with them now is really too little, too late. She only stopped talking to them after getting caught in a situation she couldn't talk her way out of. If those videos hadn't been discovered, she'd likely still be hanging out with them, cooking up the next scheme. It's important not to let her play the victim card here because she was in on it until things got too heated. I keep coming back to this point. The timing of her sudden shift is just too convenient to overlook. It's not like she had some moral epiphany. It was more like an, "Oh crap, I got caught" moment. I remember when I first bolted to my brother's place. She was still defending her friends and insisting she could keep those friendships while ignoring the terrible advice they gave. She was more upset about my so-called overreaction than her own actions. It wasn't until she realized she was part of something publicly embarrassing that she suddenly got how wrong it all was. I've been pondering what might have happened if my sister-in-law hadn't uncovered those videos. Would my wife have woken up to the reality on her own? Would she have told me about the cameras, or kept the secret while her pals plotted their next move? Everything points to her continuing on this path. She was already standing up for them after I left, using their talking points during our arguments. Her breaking contact now seems more like a knee-jerk reaction than a real reflection on her choices. She's not blocking them because she finally gets that they're toxic. She's doing it because they got her into hot water. There's a world of difference between realizing your friends are harmful to your marriage and realizing they made you look bad publicly. Plus, there's the whole issue of her lying about how involved she was. First, she claimed the whole thing was her idea. Then she confessed it was suggested by them, and later she admitted they planned it together. Now, finding out they've been recording for weeks just adds to the betrayal. Each new piece of information has been worse than the last, and I'm still not sure I have the full story. If someone only does the right thing because they got caught doing the wrong thing, what does that say about their character? Another comment came in, suggesting I document everything about those cameras and videos before thinking about making up with her. This could be crucial if we head toward divorce, as I need to protect myself legally. They even suggested pressing charges, since what happened is likely illegal. I hadn't considered this right away, because I was so overwhelmed emotionally. But after reading the comments, I did contact a lawyer. Apparently, this whole mess breaks several laws, including wiretapping and privacy laws, and maybe even revenge porn laws, depending on what exactly was recorded. Posting those videos online just makes it worse legally. The lawyer told me to save all evidence, like screenshots of the videos before they were deleted, photos of where the cameras were, and notes on when everything was installed. Luckily, my sister-in-law had the sense to save everything she found, which is a massive help. There are others who downloaded those videos before TikTok took them down, which might be key for damages if we go the civil action route. It turns out the public humiliation being monetized, since TikTok pays for viral content, adds another level to the case. The criminal side is tricky, involving multiple areas, and since the cameras were technically placed with my wife's okay in our own home, it complicates things. But the lawyer thinks there's a definite invasion of privacy case, and maybe even conspiracy charges, considering the plan's coordinated nature. For now, I'm documenting everything and weighing my options. Whether I press criminal charges or pursue civil action partly depends on what happens with my marriage, and whether these women face consequences naturally. So, here's my final update. I'm moving forward with the divorce. After my previous post, I gave my wife one last shot to come clean about everything. I told her I needed the whole truth. No more lies, no more excuses, and that understanding what she did and when was crucial if there was any hope of rebuilding. She agreed to be honest, and what she revealed made my decision a lot easier. Those cameras weren't just set up 6 weeks before she vanished. They'd been there for 4 months. She helped plan their locations with Claudia and the others. My wife admitted she knew all about it, saying she went along because her friends convinced her I might be hiding things too, so it was just leveling the playing field. When I asked why she was fessing up now, she said she hoped being fully honest would show she was serious about changing. But this wasn't just a mistake, poor judgment, or even toxic friends leading her astray. This was a drawn-out conspiracy to mentally mess with me and destroy our marriage. With my wife fully on board the whole time. The woman I married wouldn't have done this, but maybe she never existed in the way I thought she did. I've already met with a divorce lawyer, and with all the evidence we have, He's confident we can get through this quickly and on favorable terms. Where we are, her actions count as marital misconduct, which affects dividing property and any alimony. We're also going ahead with criminal charges against Claudia and the others. The district attorney is interested because of the social media angle and the risk of others copying this behavior. My wife won't face charges since she's cooperating fully with the investigation. I've moved out for good. Couldn't stand being in a place where I was secretly recorded for months. My brother's helping me find a new apartment, and work has been super understanding about everything. My wife's really upset, but I've stopped feeling sorry for her. She made her choices every day for 4 months. Some folks asked if I think she can change or if I'm giving up too easily. Here's what I know. Someone who can plan to mentally torture their spouse over months isn't someone I want to be married to. Even if she could change, I'd never be able to trust her again. How can you move past something like this? I'm focusing on moving forward. The legal stuff will work itself out. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. Your insights helped me see the situation clearly when I couldn't. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy hearing stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.